Well, I'd like to welcome Dani Titterington to the Life with the Lionesses from the Women in Rugby League project. Welcome, Dani. And just to give you a bit of an introduction, I'm absolutely thrilled. You're one of our dual internationals, or dual cappers, as I'm saying on all of these things, where you played for the Great Britain Lionesses and also the England Lionesses. And looking at that, you've done a six international tours. So from 2000, 2002, 2003, 2007, 2008, and also 2013. So absolutely phenomenal. So welcome. I'm just so chuffed that you've agreed to be interviewed.
Thank you.
So first, starting up, can you just, how did you get involved in rugby league, and you know, where were you initially born, and what's your background in rugby league?
Okay, well, I was born in Leeds, and originally I got introduced to rugby league through school. There wasn't any rugby league for girls back then. I made myself sound really old then. But yeah,
was that Steve Boothroyd, out of interest, in school?
That name does ring a bell. Going back,
yeah.
Not very good with names, but yeah.
Yeah.
We similar to Jane Banks, actually, and I've seen her interview and she said the same thing. You kind of, if you wanted to get involved in the rugby league, you played with the boys, and there was a handful of us girls that really wanted to do it as part of our GCSEs. So there was a bit of a fight about that, because you could do it up until a certain age as mixed, but then if there weren't enough girls, you just couldn't do it. So we kind of tried to put a bit of a school team together. At the school I was at the time, it was a bit frowned upon. They didn't really want girls to play rugby. Being a little rebel, that's obviously what we then intended to do, was get a whole team together. My cousin went to another local school and she did the same in her school, and then we ended up playing a game against each other, and it kind of took off from there then. We got support from a couple of teachers in the school, and it just sort of developed.
What schools was that then, Dani?
So I went to Intake High, and then my cousin went to Grangefield, and they had a few girls there that wanted to play. And then, yeah, so we just ended up kind of organising a game ourselves with the backing from a couple of teachers, and then it developed and it just became a bit more of a regular thing. And then at one of the games, some of the women from Stanley Club were watching, and they asked me if I'd be interested in going training, and it kind of went from there. Yeah, I have a bit of a story from the first time I went to a training session, actually. This will have been 2014. No, what am I talking? I will have been 14 when I first started playing, and it was open age women's then. So that were a scary day. I had trials for Leeds United to go and trial with the girls. Massive Leeds United family. My dad, my brother, huge supporters. So they were really chuffed I were going there. Or I'd been contacted to go training with Stanley Rugby Club. And as it happens, I didn't go to the trials, and I went to Stanley Rugby Club and never looked back.
Oh, wow. Well, thank goodness you did. It's Rugby League's gain and gift that you gave us. So you played for Stanley initially then? Yes,
yeah. I played for Stanley and discovered that I absolutely loved the sport. Absolutely loved it. I used to go to Leeds Rhinos games anyway. My uncle and a family friend of mine, they used to play for Leeds Rhinos back in the late 80s. So I kind of had gone to games with them as retired players and really enjoyed watching the sport. And I think that's why I discovered, once I started playing it, I thought, yeah, this is really for me. And I just loved it. I started living and breathing it every single day. That's all I wanted to do. And then one day I just decided, you know, I'd heard all about the international side of Great Britain and thought, wow, how amazing it would be to be a part of that. And just thought of finding out how's the best way to get on the path to being in that position as some of those girls. And that's why I then ended up going and playing at Wakefield.
Ah, right. So how old would you be when you started playing for Wakefield then?
I was 18, so that will have been in 98. So yeah, I mean, as you know yourself, I've known a lot of the ladies back then. A lot of the Wakefield girls were part of the Great Britain international side.
Yeah.
I was very, very fortunate to be surrounded by some of the best players, which, you know, that's the reason why I wanted to go there. Is I thought, if you want to get there, you've got to put yourself in that position and push yourself by being in the best team at the time, and see if you can hack it.
Yeah, brilliant. So you started playing for Wakefield. So tell us about your pathway into GB then. So you were playing for Wakefield, and about how you then sort of got involved with the Great Britain squad.
Well, obviously, that back then, playing with the girls such as Brenda Dobecks and your Jo Will, Jo Robb, all those kind of girls, obviously lots of them, Lucy Ferguson, surrounded by all these legends that you know very well. Just seeing them come off the back of the 98 tour and hearing all about it, and, you know, just getting involved and saying I wanted to be a part of it. What do I need to do to get there? And they just kind of guided me on that path. This is what you need to do. You need to get the best at the position that you're in, pick your position you want to play, and just work hard at it. And yeah, I was lucky enough to get asked to go be part of the train-on squad, building up to the 2000 World Cup. And then if you were lucky enough, you were selected. So yes, that's how it happened for me.
Oh, so what did it mean to you? So you got the call up. So what did it mean to you?
It's hard to put it into words, really. I was a part of the squad for a long time, but I still remember that first ever piece of paper that you received back then, telling you that you'd made the squad, and calling my dad and saying, "You'll never believe it. I have been training with this squad, but I've actually made it in. I'm going to be part of the Women's World Cup." Obviously, that being the 2000 one.
Yeah.
The best part of that being that it was going to be based in England. So all my friends and family could come along and see what it's all about, having not really known much about women in rugby league as well at the time. So yeah, just absolutely amazing experience.
So tell us a bit about what you had to do then, sort of in order to get into that squad, sort of training wise and everything around that. What sort of thing did you have to do?
Yeah. So you had a lot of support for the people that were involved in women's rugby. Outside of that, not really known at this moment, that moment in time. So you had to have the push yourself. You had to be really self-motivated. Surround yourself with the people who are part of the squad as much as you can, so you can all be there, help each other out, push each other on to keep doing that extra training, because you did a lot of it off your own back. And a lot of us, yeah, rugby training, great. Other than that, a lot of people didn't really know how to do the strength and conditioning, how to rehab your body right, to make sure you prevent yourself from injury, things like that. These are all things you kind of learn on the job as you go. The fantastic support we had within the squad and the staff were just great. But other than that, it was literally self-motivation. So you made yourself go to the gym. You followed training programs that were given to you, little bits of paper that you carried around. But yeah, you just, and obviously, like I said before, being part of the Wakefield squad as well, there was quite a lot of us that could do the training together. So we could meet and do extra bits on top of club training, which was very hard for us anyway. So we were getting some real good quality training in there at club level, which helped us a lot with England.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had the sort of commitments with the club, the commitments with Great Britain. What about off the field as well, sort of commitments? How did you manage to juggle all of that?
Yeah, so back then I would have been working in a gym, which helped, obviously, because I had access to that facility, which was good. And I was in a position then when I was qualifying to become a gym instructor and things like that, and personal training. So I was learning a lot on that side of things, which did help with the rugby side. But when you work, no matter where you worked, I suppose, at the time, people didn't really know about women's rugby. So it wasn't a big deal to anyone who wasn't a part of it as such. So you could say, listen, I've been picked for the England squad and for example, I had to say, I've been picked for the England squad, I'm going to need some time out of work. Right. Well, eventually, long story short, they'd come back and say, you can take that unpaid, which, again, then you're also losing financially there, which is really difficult to do when you've got things to pay for. I mean, I was quite lucky that I wasn't, you know, I was young, I didn't have any kids, I didn't have a mortgage or anything like that, so I was in a very good position, but a lot of the girls, it was a very different situation. So therefore, we all tried to raise money as a team as well as our individual amounts. But as I'm sure some of the girls have mentioned before, if you didn't raise the funds, then you weren't part of the squad. No matter who you were, if you didn't have that money to get on that plane or be part of that tour in the World Cup, etc., you just weren't going to be able to be there.
Yeah, it was just so important, wasn't it, to be able to get all that money and everyone to be involved. It's interesting, isn't it? And we'll talk a bit about the contrast between that and England, because you're, as I say, in the elite club, and I think there's about 10 of them we've identified of the dual internationals for England and Great Britain. So talk us through. You've got your letter, and it's a home Rugby League World Cup World Series. What was it like? Talk us through it. What was it like on and off the field?
Oh, going back some now. Off the field, as I say, you worked hard, you trained hard, you prepped yourself as much as you could, you made sure your diet was right as much as you could, what knowledge you were given and that you had, and you just did everything to put yourself in the best position to be on that field when it came to the World Cup. Absolutely fantastic experience. For a first experience, to be part of a World Cup alone, but for it to be on your home soil is just an amazing feeling. You know, just being in that camp together, those girls just become your family because you're all there together. You're in one hotel, you're living and breathing it the whole time you're in camp, and it's just an experience you can't really explain unless you've been there, other than to say anyone who's interested needs to go and give it a whirl and just push to get there. So it's fantastic.
Yeah. So what's your memories of it then?
Have
you got any? Because sometimes things are a blur, aren't they? And other times things are really clear.
If you asked me to separate tours, oh God, I'm done. Remember my last one, not my first one as such. No, I do have really fond memories of it. For me, some of those early days with the Great Britain girls are some of the best ones. I don't know if that's because you knew you had to do more off the field as such, or away from training and get-togethers and stuff. So it made you a bit more, not proud, but you kind of had this thing where, wow, I've worked so hard to get here, we're here, just relish every second of it. So, and we really did. We were a really good, well-knit team. We worked well together, very, very serious when it came to training and games, etc. But we also knew how to have a bit of a laugh off the field as well. So that's what creates all the really good memories of it, I think. Yeah.
And you beat Australia, didn't you?
Yeah, that was just absolutely amazing. Yeah, that's something that doesn't happen all the time, does it? So that's a really fantastic memory as well.
Yeah.
That elated feeling at the end of that game was just fantastic.
Yeah. And then on to the final. So what was it like in the final?
Amazing.
So have you got the medal?
Yes, I have actually. I have got that. I should have brought it out for you.
Yeah, you should. I'm gonna ask you to show your shirts soon, but we'll leave that as well for everyone to see in anticipation.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, obviously the ultimate would have been to have won the whole thing, but just to be a part of that, the final, is just an amazing experience in that stadium. All those people watching, your friends and your family all being there experiencing it as well. Just great, absolutely great.
Yeah. So you did the 2000, and then you kept up with it. You then went on the 2002, 2003 tours. So 2002 was to Australia, which was a tour of Australia, wasn't it? And then there was another World Series, World Cup in 2003, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Yeah, so what was it like getting prepared for all of that, and any memories from those? Because that was totally different. Obviously, you're all together for thick and thin then, aren't you, on a tour?
Yeah, that's it. You really are. 2002, Australia, brilliant. You didn't get much downtime, but when you did, we got to see places you thought you'd never go. And that's something that anyone who gets to play for Great Britain or England is very fortunate. You know, it does take you to these places that you just probably would never have gone. Australia is just an amazing place. I think after we left that tour to Australia, I was adamant I was going to live there. I think if I hadn't have kept in the England squad, I probably would have ended up living over there. But no, yeah, absolutely amazing. We got to see some of the great sites, but in the camp, we stayed in some great places as well. And the training facilities, the weather obviously helped. Yeah, a lot of unreal experiences.
Yeah.
So thing as well as just, I mean, even out there, what are our sort of club level grounds? They're stadiums over there. You know, sport is such a huge thing. We'd go to what we thought was going to be sort of a club place for a bit of a training session. You'd sort of turn up and go, wow, it's a full-on stadium with an immaculate pitch and changing facilities that you would die for back then. And so yeah, a complete different level. And women's rugby league obviously being a lot more popular over there. So yeah, we were a bit more geared up. People knew we were coming. Great experience. A lot of the girls doing interviews on the radio, or you know, some people even taking calls on a bus trip to a session. Yeah, completely different.
Yeah. So have you got any memories sort of the Australia, New Zealand that spring to mind?
The New Zealand tour, really great. I think it was the 2003 one where we were invited into a Maori tribe. That was fantastic. That's something you could go and travel to New Zealand now, you wouldn't get the opportunity to do. And what a great experience, all in the traditional clothing. They do the traditional dance to invite you in, and then you know they do the dances and the singing, stuff like that. Really good. And then obviously playing against Kiwis. Yeah, I think I swapped shirts with my opposite winger in one of the games, and you would genuinely think I'd swapped it with one of the male props in the New Zealand Kiwi team.
Really, the size of it?
Oh, absolutely. That was never going to get put in a frame because you can't buy a frame big enough.
So what was the physicality difference between sort of club rugby and then playing international?
Yeah, you really knew about it. The reason why you have so much rest and recover, not rest, but rehab and recovery in between games when you're on tour is really needed. The intensity of it, you're at the top of your fitness level, and the impacts in the games, particularly against the Kiwis, you know, and equally a lot of the Aussies, it's very strong. Yeah, I think sometimes you feel it's equivalent to running into a bus. You don't feel it at the time. It's after the games that you think, thank God for this ice bath, and you never thought you'd say that, but you absolutely love them because you know your body needs it.
Yeah, for the recovery. So you've done like 3 of the tours, brilliant. And then there was a gap because in 2003 the Rugby Football League didn't prioritise international rugby league, so that's when sort of Great Britain for 5 years then didn't turn until 2007 when they got funding from Sport England to be able to tour them, and they became part of the performance department. So it was a totally different, and they became England. So they changed from group because the men then had changed to England. So the women sort of followed suit. And I know Brenda was sort of coaching, wasn't she, initially when England set up. So tell us a bit more about that transition from, obviously you'd still been playing, so the Great Britain women into the England women, and what was that like?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of you going into it with the same mindset and the training and your commitment you have to make exactly the same. But but yeah, in a way, it was good to follow suit with what the men were doing, because you hoped then that you were sort of going to get the bit of coverage it needed to bring it forward, having not been around for a bit as particularly. Missed the GB thing, because I think that's just quite a, that's the tradition of it, and you kind of thought, but yeah, absolutely, again, equally amazing. Great experience. And the shirts, strangely enough, did improve a little bit over time as well.
So what was the differences that you noticed, because around having to your preparation for the game or for the tour and things like that? What were the differences?
So I think at this point we've started to get they've got more of a staffing team. You've got people involved in sort of doing the strength and conditioning, got more access to physios and masseuse and things like that, which massively helps. I always felt sorry for whoever's responsibility was the massages for the squad, because they worked harder than anyone. They literally had a room in a hotel that everybody just constantly knocked on the door, back-to-back bookings of people just needing rubs and stuff like that. But that massively helped. Like you say, a bit more funding. That's a big difference. We didn't at this point have to raise our own funds to be in part of the squad on tour. You still did bits to get your sponsorship, to get your boots and things like that. You bought those obviously yourself, but yeah, you could see the development coming in there in terms of the support, definitely.
Yeah. And actually that made you, because 2008 was a World Cup in Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then 2000 World Cup was a Festival of World Cups. There were both Festival of World Cup here in the UK. So yes, you've done two before your home crowds as well, haven't you?
Yeah, my first and my last.
Yeah, absolutely. So how was that sort of doing the from the World Cup perspective? Can you remember much about those?
The last one, or
either of them really. Yeah.
I think when you're out in Australia, I mean, when we did the Festival of World Cups in Australia, I mean, they had banners on lampposts all the way down the streets. I think it was televised over there. And as I say, there were people wanted to do radio interviews, there were meetings, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that was quite interesting to see. I think one day we did a poster signing day, I vaguely remember. Loads of posters on the table. We literally spent hours all signing. I think I changed my signature about 3 times at one point. When you have a long name like mine, you tend to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a fantastic experience. You kind of had a little bit of a celeb feeling for the first time, which was nice. But yeah, the facilities again as well. We played in some great places, some of the great stadiums over there. And then being part of the 2013 Festival of World Cups in England, the last one, we were based in Leeds. Great for me, my hometown. Know it very well. Being a Leeds Rhinos fan all my life as well was great to be a part of that. And yeah, just being in that camp, having been in the squad for such a long time, and remembering my first ever one was stepping on a pitch, playing in front of a home crowd, was just amazing. And then the development of it, it's a lot more. By 2013, a lot more people know about Women's Rugby League. It's in schools. We never used to have girls playing rugby back then, so you didn't have people who were the next generation wanting to come through. A big thing for me as well was, I mean, I knew that I was going to retire after that one, so I was planning on going travelling, and so I kind of knew, I'd not said anything, but knew that was going to be my last one. I actually played right at the beginning in training for the squad. I ruptured the ligaments in my ankle, so I had a lot of work with physios during camp and everything, and I was very, very fortunate to even get to play. I couldn't even run properly because I was so heavily strapped to stop any movement in my ankle, but there was absolutely no way I could have left without playing. So yeah, I mean, it bittersweet because I didn't want to retire, but it was the right time for me, and the sweetness of it being on my home turf again.
Yeah.
Just experiencing that feeling.
Oh, absolutely. So what do you think's been the most challenging aspects of your international career?
Time away from your career, really, I suppose. As I've said, I was lucky enough. I didn't have any kids, no family to support and things like that. So that side of it was a lot easier for me than a lot of the girls. But career-wise, I was managing a health club at the time, which you've got to train somebody to cover you when you're not there, or there's got to be somebody coming from somewhere else. You've got to hope your job's still there when you come back, because you're going out for quite a long time. And financially as well. When I used to work for Fitness First early days, and I was very fortunate when we had to raise our money. They sponsored me half of it and paid my full-time wage while I went.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
I played in the first World Cup, which was great. But then in 2013, obviously managing a club and stuff like that, it was really difficult to sort of leave it all behind and switch off from it all. So I think financially is the main thing, because you've got to make sure you're in a place that you can go without that money for near on 2 months.
Absolutely.
And not
yeah, absolutely. So sacrificing wages for going on tour. Yeah.
Very different situation for the women in that sense, I suppose. That'd be hard for any of the guys in that position to understand, because it's very, very different when you put in as much commitment as them, you're as dedicated to it as they are, and you were also trying to have a full-time career at the same time, or you're a full-time mum. That kind of, I think that's, kudos to everybody who's done it, because it is difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that throughout these interviews, the juggling of things.
Yeah, I'd never change a thing. Absolutely amazing experience. And anybody who's even thinking of getting involved, just aim high and go for it. Really.
Yeah. Well, you can see that in what you're just telling us. So what's the most positive aspect then? And when you reflect on it, on all your achievements?
Yeah, I think just being part of that team sport. Rugby League is just such a great team sport. The camaraderie in it is just amazing. You get closer to all these people that you're surrounded by, closer than you realise. Looking back now, you don't realise how much you are actually a bit of a family, especially when you're all in camps and things like that. But yeah, just the places you go, the people you meet, the people you play against, and discipline, fitness, all those aspects are all part of it. They all kind of form where you move forward as well. For me, it was a great confidence thing, because you've been a part of a team, you've worked hard as an individual, you've aimed for something and you've achieved it, and it's a proud moment.
And actually, when you look back over sort of more than 13 years, actually 15 years, you dedicated your time to being an international, or wanting to be an international. So when you reflect on that, what do you reflect on your achievement?
At the time, you're just so into it, and I was, my whole career of rugby league, I was so into it. I still keep in touch with the girls, and motivation, and just praising them on everything that they're doing and things like that. And a lot of my friends, luckily for me, that even from early days, still in touch with a lot of the women from then, and then a lot of the girls in there now, having been part of that 2013 squad. A lot of those girls were just coming into it. Some of them, it was their first tour, and now they're like the leaders at the minute, and sort of the ambassadors for it. Which is just fantastic to see, and where it's going now as well. And it's not until you look back that you think, God, I were a part of that. You don't, at the time, you don't think this is major, to the extent, the overall thing. But yeah,
and something you've got to be proud of.
Yeah.
you know, and your achievement. Show us your shirts. Show us your 2 shirts.
Yeah. So this one, it's even got my name on.
Oh, look at that.
Didn't do that afterwards, did I?
No.
So the GB shirt there.
And it was Great Britain and Ireland initially, wasn't it? It didn't stay Great Britain and Ireland long, but for that one it was. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
And actually, rugby.com was Phil Clark's.
It was Phil Clark.
Yeah, company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a big sponsor for us that year.
Yeah.
And then shirt changed a little bit.
Just a little. It actually fitted you.
Changing size, I promise, but this looks huge.
It does.
It was huge. And then this one was slightly more fitting.
Brilliant.
And then the 2013 one obviously got signed by all the girls, knowing it was going to be my last one. So I thought, yeah, so that goes in a frame.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So if you were to sort of now speak to those that are thinking of taking up rugby league or the internationals now, what message would you give them to getting involved?
Just definitely do it. Don't hesitate. Don't spend any more time thinking about it. Just get out there and do it. Get involved in any way. Get into a team. Work on yourself. The way things are going at the moment, it's moving on up. Thanks to people like yourself, getting a bit of info out there and a bit of coverage. But with the social media side of it as well, there's a lot of being put out there, especially with the England girls, and now obviously with being Super League and things like that. It's just a great thing to be involved in, not only for the sport and the fitness side of it, but just the whole experience. It's just fantastic. You'll never look back. You'll just be in it for as long as you can. And then with the international girls, great setup for them now. That platform's there for them to just go out and do what they want, what they can.
Yeah.
I say.
Women's sport's amazing at the minute, isn't it? It's just so lovely to see. Yeah. And women
listen to the national anthem. It still gets me every time.
Oh, does it?
Big lump in my throat every time. If anyone looks at me, I'm like, no, don't. I can't, honestly. It gets me every time.
Oh, how lovely. What lovely memories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Dani, thank you. Thank you for your time. And as you say, you're in a very unique club of, the dual international for Great Britain and also for England. And actually to do it over so many years, be interesting as we get the stats together where you actually sit within the number of caps and the games you played in that very unique club. So thank you for your time. You're a real role model for women now playing rugby league, but also women and girls of the future and all your achievements. So thank you for sharing your memories with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Julia. Take care.
Thanks.